I'm not sure if you heard, but the UK has recently decided to withdraw from the European Union. So I decided to take my democratic right to stand up, make my voice heard, and play a Switch game about it. Originally released last year for PC, Not Tonight Taking Back Control Edition is a post-Brexit dystopian pixel art nightclub bouncer simulator. Considering the game is set in fascist graffitied ruin, it seems like the makers of this game seem to think that the Brexit plan could use maybe a few rewrites. If you play games to escape the absolute torrent of British political content, then you may want to bin this game immediately, but it is quite a charming experience. It's playful and funny satire, and it is clearly anti-Brexit, but it could also be seen as the way that we over-dramatize everything and think the world's going to explode and end horribly, when really we're probably just going to beat a bunch of trade deal complications until we all eventually die. But what about the actual gameplay? Well, Not Tonight and the devs and the publishers seem to be quite open about being quite clear that this is inspired by Papers, Please, which happens to be one of my favourite indie games of all time. Now, I hate to compare things to other things and act like, oh, it's like Papers, Please, but if they're that open about it, then we have to make the comparison. In Papers, Please, you work as a border control officer, and you find discrepancies in visas on a day-to-day basis. Not Tonight converts this to a bouncer role. You're at nightclubs and pubs, and you check over IDs, making sure the birthdays are right, they're stamped, they're watermarked, etc. But Not Tonight isn't just a rip-off game though. It has an interactable home life, it has more world building and character, and it also changes the gameplay slightly. In Not Tonight, you have to hit a certain limit of people let into the clubs, which means at the end of the night, you start to rush things and it becomes more about emergence. I found that towards the end of my time, I kept rushing through different people, and that meant I kept making more mistakes, and that builds your stress, it makes you freak out, and that is where, honestly, that's where the gameplay shines. But the reason Papers, Please is one of the most famous games of all time is because it took the most boring job in the world and made it thrilling. That was through heart-wrenching, awful choices. Do I separate this wife from her husband just because her passport's a month out of date? Do I pay for my medication from my uncle? Or do I pay for the rest of my family so they don't go hungry? Do I stick with my unreliable but safe government, or do I rebel? Not Tonight has some of the latter, with European rebellion as kind of an overarching plot and these things that crop up, but from day-to-day life, those choices aren't really there. And if that's pretty much non-existent during the nightly ID checks, then it kind of reveals the magic to just be checking IDs. I'm a sucker for pixel art, and it has some really stunning frames in this game, and I found myself laughing at quite a lot of the dialogue. It has a lot of really funny lines in this game, even if it has a very depressing theme behind it. It works well on the Switch, but I could tell it has the fingerprints of a very PC designed game. It took a while to get used to the controls. Like at home, for example, the analog keys move some things, but the arrow keys move different things, and the only way I learned that was because it was painted faintly on the back of a wall somewhere. However, the awkwardness of moving the controls around did actually add to the experience, because it meant I was frustratingly kind of moving around trying to jiggle things and get things done in time, so it didn't hinder it too badly. I also ran into quite a few bugs in the game, and the dev team were very friendly and helped me out with them, but couldn't help get me thinking that maybe it wasn't just our government that was rushing to hit a Brexit deadline. It does add mechanics. It has things like VIPs you have to memorize passwords for. It has different multiple queues, so you have to switch between them, and each have different mechanics, which adds this sense of mobility that Papers, Please never really had, as it just had this one screen. It also has multiple levels. It has different clubs and pubs, and they have different graphic styles, and sometimes with completely unique mechanics. But is that enough? Not Tonight delivers a charming political satire that has some smart ideas. It has a different gameplay style and some different mechanics, along with some more mobility, so it's not just a complete Papers, Please clone. But if it is inspired by that, then it does miss what makes Papers, Please so great. It's not about the mechanics of how the papers are checked or the bleakness of the political world. It's more about the real people that you interact with and the choices you make to either save them or doom them. This left me with an entertaining satirical experience that was unfortunately kind of brought down by quite a grindy and frustrating daily gameplay. But if you like Brexit jokes, yelling at 17-year-olds and trying to remember how long ago 2001 was, go hog wild. Let me know your thoughts if you have tried this game out, or if you think a Brexit game should exist at all. Don't send me your Brexit opinions though, I don't want to know.